right on. Yeah, just ping me whenever your thing's working a little better. This is Aavegotchi DAO discussion every Sunday. We have this. Welcome all 31 of you. Um, Again, shout out to Hardcore for putting together the Miro board. There's a link there in the chat. Again, shout out to Hardcore for putting together I can hear some echo. Board. There's a link there. What does that mean? In the chat. Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying, Hardcore. So yeah, we're as usual. We're gonna go through some old business real quick. I'll keep an eye on the chat, and then we'll yeah, we're as usual. Yeah. We're gonna go through some old business real quick. I'll keep an eye on. This is annoying. I just getting this double echo right now, so I'm hearing myself speak. Give me 1 second, guys. I just gotta change my audio settings. Getting this double echo right now, so I'm hearing myself speak. Give me 1 second, guys. I just gotta change my audio settings. Getting this double echo right now, so I'm hearing myself. How's this? Yeah, Discord's just been terrible lately. Absolutely terrible. Yeah, I know you can't hear an echo, but I can hear myself talking over myself, and it's annoying. I'm gonna come off stage and I'll try coming back on. Talking over myself, and it's annoying. I'm gonna come off stage and I'll try coming back on. Talking over myself.
Do you guys, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you pretty good now.
Having some issues today or something.
Yeah, I think so.
You guys can hear me, but it's hard for me to hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you pretty good now. And then I'm talking over myself, so I can hear double voices when I'm talking, and it's yeah, it's just annoying. And then but we'll get through it. So I can hear double voices when I'm talking. Yeah, so we'll go through old business first. If you guys can't hear me echoing, that's fine. Just gonna try and I'll bear with it. Yeah, so we'll go through old business first. Yeah. If you guys can't hear me echoing, so old business, we're gonna be adding, or I think we're talking currently about adding some DAO liquidity to the Ghost Alch pairs. But this would not be dipping into the glitter rewards, right? This is something we touched on briefly yesterday, where we could talk as a DAO how much Ghost we would be comfortable LPing, and we have a lot of Ghost in there, but it doesn't have to necessarily be a large amount. I think in the DAO discussions there, it seems like 30,000 Ghost was brought up. But I know, Dan, I think you had commented and said that 30,000 could be a little low based on what we already have, so we could allocate a little bit more to that if we felt comfortable as a DAO to do that. So I think it's good to add some liquidity for those pools. It shows the project has strength. I know you made some good points yesterday around that. So I think it's good to add some liquidity for those pools. If anybody has anything to say on what they think of adding DAO liquidity to the Ghost Alch pairs, I see Hardcore. You're saying Wagman suggested 30 and 50K is the options. Okay. I think the number of 75K was also talked about yesterday. I think the number of 75K was also 75K USD. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. I mean, how does everyone feel about that? 75K USD. With just adding liquidity for the actual pools, it doesn't affect our rewards in any way. With just adding liquidity. Total liquidity is about 16.6K or so currently. Dang. Total liquidity is about 16.6K or so currently. Million. Okay. So, to make a significant impact, then, do you guys think we would have to add more liquidity than what's being proposed? 75K. Adding 75K to 1.6 mil. Like, is that gonna have a? Adding 75K to 1.6 mil. Like, is that?
Hey friends, I finally found a network that looks good. So
nice.
Everything's smooth.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Cool.
Yeah, I know, Igor. I have echo. It's terrible. I don't know what to do about it. I've tried leaving the stage and coming back. I could restart my Discord, but then
they're saying 75K per pair.
Per pair.
Per pair, yeah. And the total liquidity is there's like most of the 4 Alchemica have 300K each, and
Okay. I'm just trying to think in percentage terms. What percentage of increase is this going to be for the pool if we go with the 75k USD per
I'm just trying to think in
option?
percentage terms.
You
What
know, in
percentage of
percentage
increase is
terms,
this
do we
going to be for
know?
the pool if we
It'd be
go with
about
the
a 25%
75k USD
increase,
per
so 300k
option? You know,
up
in
to
percentage terms, do we know?
375k. I mean, it would be 20% of the current pool.
Oh yeah, okay. And that's before we get more people coming into the glitter LPs, right? Because that'll deepen the liquidity for the actual individual pools, right? As we get more people coming in
coming into the glitter LPs, right?
for staking,
Deepen the liquidity for the
like LP
actual
staking.
individual pools, right? As we get more people
Well, it
coming
wouldn't
in
affect that.
No.
That's gonna
for staking,
happen no matter what,
like LP
Yeah.
staking.
because we're not.
No.
The DAO is not planning to stake for glitter rewards.
Oh no, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying, adding this, liquidity here plus, we're gonna hopefully getting more people coming over to stake for glitter, which will add more liquidity to those pools, right?
Plus, we're gonna hopefully getting more people coming
Yeah,
over
I
to
would say
stake
the
for
two
glitter, which will
are
add
not
more liquidity to
necessarily
those
like
pools,
intimately
right?
connected.
Okay.
Like it's not gonna lead. Adding more liquidity makes the pools a little bit more attractive for if someone wants to
Okay.
like make a big buy and have lower slippage. But it wouldn't necessarily lead to like more interest in staking,
Yeah.
like just by itself.
Yeah. You did make a point yesterday, just that it might, look good in terms of. I think you were saying make the project look really good with lots of liquidity available for people to buy large amounts if they want. I guess.
Make the project look really good with lots of liquidity
Yeah, I
available.
mean, it never hurts.
Buy
That's
Yeah.
one of the first things that people look at when they're
Interesting.
like looking at a new project.
Yeah. So I mean, in the chat there, what do you guys think? 75k, per pair. Like, does that sound good to you guys? We have a lot of funds in the DAO, right? We have like what 5 million ghosts or something like that.
Like,
Um,
does that sound good to you guys?
And then
We have
Alchemica
a lot
too.
of funds in
We
the
have a ton
DAO,
of
right? We
Alchemica.
have like what 5 million ghosts or something like that. And then Alchemica too.
I think
We have a ton of Alchemica.
let's look here. Let's look at the proposals. I don't think there's an official
I think
proposal made for that yet.
let's look at the proposals. I don't think there's an official
Proposal made for that yet. Yeah, it's a discussion at the moment. Dr. Wagme's proposal was 30,000 ghosts.
Yeah, it's a discussion.
So that would be
Dr. Wagme's proposal was 30,000 ghosts.
per pair.
So that would be Dr. Wagme's proposal was 30,000.
Definitely check out that thread and provide your feedback if you have some insight there.
Definitely check out that thread and provide your feedback if you have some
78K.
insight there. Definitely check out that
Yeah.
thread.
Okay. 78K. I guess I'll talk to Wagme and see if he wants to make a proposal, an official SIG prop around that, and then we can have some actionable thing we can do with that. Get the liquidity moved into those pools.
And then we can have some action.
If there are no crazy concerns someone might have about that, but you can definitely voice your concerns in that thread there.
Concerns someone might have about.
Yeah, I like Nestor's numbers, 69K. I like that.
In that thread there.
Okay, so that's part of the old business there. We're talking about ghost alc pairs, adding some liquidity. It sounds like people are on board.
Okay, so that's part of the old
Igor,
business there.
question,
We're talking about ghost alc
does the
pairs,
DAO have
adding some
Alchemica
liquidity. It
and glitter
sounds
in the
like people
treasury?
are on board.
They have,
Igor,
yeah, exactly,
question,
right.
Does the DAO have Alchemica and
Alchemica
glitter in the
lots,
treasury?
lots
They
of ghosts,
have,
no glitter.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Alchemica
Yeah, I agree with
lots,
Mikey J
lots of
also.
ghosts,
There'd be very
glitter.
few objections if staking's not involved. It's not going to impact rewards in any way. We reiterate
I
that.
agree with
So
Mikey J also.
reiterate
There'd
that
be
in the
very
SIG
few
prop as
objections
well.
if staking's not
And
involved. It's not gonna impact
maybe we can do
rewards in
something
any way.
actionable on that. I
Reiterate
don't think,
that, so
I don't see any
reiterate
major
that in the SIG
objections to
prop as
that.
well.
So,
And maybe we can do
So
something
moving on,
actionable on that. I don't think
we briefly have been talking about, well, not briefly, but we have been talking about setting the limits on the number of gotchis allowed per address. This has been flipped back to unlimited for now, but there is an ongoing discussion around potentially limiting it, and there's a couple of different suggestions there. What do people think? What do people think of going back to one of the other suggestions, and why would we want to go back to the other suggestions? Here are the voting options. You could have had, you could have set the limit on the number of gotchis each address can borrow from the open market, equal to the number of parcels, plus one. You could revert back to the original unlimited system and do nothing further, allowing unlimited numbers of borrowed gotchis per address. That's kind of where we are right now. We've reverted back. We could have reverted back and leave the open rental market to allow unlimited gotchis to be borrowed, but to set the default to 1 on all whitelists and implement the ability for whitelist creators to change the limit per wallet. So you'd be able to change how many gotchis can be held per wallet. And that way, maybe that gives the whitelist owner a little bit more control over that whole idea around people grabbing 50 gotchis, 30 gotchis, and not really using them actively and tying up rentals that could potentially be picked up by someone else that's going to be channeling with them. But that's something that was going on for a while. Are people still seeing a lot of that happening? I'm kind of curious to know. There was also an idea of per parcel. So how many parcels you have, that's how many gotchis you'd be allowed to borrow. So I have 14 parcels. I'd be able to borrow 14 gotchis.
Can you guys hear me now? Or no?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm on. For some reason, like phone is much better for Discord than being on the laptop. I think.
Yeah, I can hear you.
So hopefully it's smoother. Okay, I'm on.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Everything here. Phone is much better for Discord than.
Oh yeah. No, it's good. I'm hearing you.
Good to hear now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What's your take on setting limits? I mean, we've reverted back now to unlimited, but I think the underlying issue with this is tying up more gotchis in a wallet than are actually being utilized, and potentially we don't know this 100%, but maybe some people being malicious with it and tying up gotchis so other people can't rent them. But I'm not really sure about that one. I've heard it being talked about. But what's your take on it? What?
Yeah.
I'm not really
My
sure
take
about
is,
that one.
I mean, theoretically,
I've heard it.
there's no difference.
But what's your take on it? What?
Yeah.
I'm not really
My
sure
take
about
is,
that one.
I mean, theoretically,
I've heard it.
there's no difference.
What's your take on it? What?
My take is, I mean, theoretically, there's no difference. Having like bandwidth to do right now. So if the community wants to help out with that process, that would be great. Having like but to do right now. Theoretically speaking, there's no huge difference for like a botter versus for having like the unlimited way and the one address for like a botter, one gotcha per address way. For having like the unlimited, but that's different. There's been a lot of more anecdotal evidence of the difference. That's what I'm. But that's kind of also interested in hearing from people. Is there a difference in how many gotchis you can lend out with the unlimited versus the limited way? Lend out with the unlimited versus the limited way. Lend out with the unlimited versus the limited way. Is anyone talking?
Sorry, I've been trying. I'm not really sure what's going on here. But now I'm not echoing, but your voice is echoing over it. So it's interesting. This was happening the other day. There was nothing I could do about it, so I'm just gonna try and I'm just gonna cope with that. We have a couple.
Yeah.
There was nothing I could do.
GM friends.
I'm just gonna try and GM.
I want to answer, I guess, the question in terms of borrowers. Just anecdotally, I've had more clients come to me that say, like, near the end of the reset, like right before the reset, prior to the reversion back in the rule, that would say that their gotchis weren't getting rented, so they would just whitelist me because they weren't able to get them out. This is once again just anecdotally, just here and there I was hearing that, but overwhelmingly from most of my small friends in the community, they said they liked the change because they were actually able to get gotchis at the reset. Overwhelmingly from most of my small friends in the community, they said they liked
It was
the change because they were actually able to get gotchis at the reset. Overwhelmingly from most of my small friends in the community, they said they liked
it was
the change because they were actually able to get gotchis at the reset.
it was
You cut out there, Dan. Last bit. You cut out there, Dan. Last bit.
you guys just keep going then.
Cyber Dan is back.
Fucking Discord.
I know. Getting rugged today, but that's okay. I think you guys can still hear me, right? I know.
Yeah, you're coming in loud and clear.
That's okay.
Coder Dan got
I think you guys
cut
can
off
still
there
hear
a
me,
little
right? He can stay persistent, sir. He'll find a way. Okay, so with this setting limits on the number of borrowed gotchis, no future. Your take is it would be inconvenience to you, but also you see the other side of it where a lot of other asset owners were finding it easier to get gotchis around reset. Is that kind of what you were just saying?
Yeah, like just for context, is like
easier to get gotchis around reset. Is that kind of what you were just saying?
yeah, like just for context, is like
easier to get gotchis around reset. Is that kind of what you were just saying? Does this increase the available supply of gotchis in general that are available for renting? I think it does, right? By setting a limit. Does this increase the available
I don't know
supply
if it
of gotchis
increases
in
the
general that are available for renting? I think it does, right? by setting a limit?
Does this increase the available
I don't know
supply
if
of
it
gotchis
increases
in
the
general that are available for renting? I think it does, right? By setting a limit.
I don't know if it increases the
Supply of gotchis in general that are available for renting? I think it does, right? By setting a limit.
Yeah, see, drilling down, I'm trying to look for where like the problem is, right? I'm looking at what Mikey J is also seeing.
Yeah, see,
It doesn't
drilling
seem
down,
like
I'm
there's a
trying to look for
really
where the problem is, right? I'm
obvious
looking at what Mikey J is also seeing.
kind of issue
It
with
doesn't
with the
seem
way it
like
is right
there's
now,
a
because like you
really
said, a lot of those rentals,
obvious
based on the current Alchemica prices, are not profitable. So people are choosing to not play the market, I guess, and try and get these gotchis out, rented out, for what seems like an appealing price, an appealing profit. So I don't know. Do you think the market could potentially correct itself over time? Just these people will have to eventually list it so people do rent their gotchis, right? Or else they just sit there, or the Alchemica price appreciates in a way that's favorable to those rentals. Or else they just sit there, or the
see,
Alchemica
the way I like to
price
think about it, like when
appreciates in a way that's favorable to those rentals.
yeah, see, the way I like to think about it, like when
Appreciates in a way that's favorable to those rentals.
yeah, see, the way I like to think about it, like when
Appreciates in a way that's favorable to those rentals. That is so true. That's it's always been an ongoing war. The only difference here is there's real money involved, and that's the only difference. I think that's why we get the level of engagement we get a lot of the time with these sorts of things. Traditional Web 2 games had botting, but I think a lot of times, sometimes it got overlooked because it didn't really affect anyone's bags. It just made just a poor, just a crappier gameplay experience. I totally agree with that.
I will say something though, because Dan makes a good.
Just a crappier gameplay experience. I totally agree with that.
I will say something though, because Dan makes a good.
Just a crappier gameplay experience. I totally agree with that.
I will say something though, because Dan makes a good.
That is interesting. Maybe they had to find that vector, right, by buying land. Um, and so maybe there is something to this anecdotally, but like you said, we would need someone to come up with some sort of data points and say,
Maybe there is something to this anecdotally, but like you said,
this is something we can make a sig prop off of, basically.
Assassin's Guild, so I can kill them all.
we can make a sig prop off of.
We need like 100 of you or 1,000,
Assassin's Guild.
just
Well,
everywhere.
I guarantee that's a way to have gameplay, and if you mess up the rules of bot
100 of
killing,
you
then
or 1,000,
you're eliminated from the squad.
everywhere.
Well, I guarantee that's a way to
I
have
love that you have
gameplay,
ethics already
and if you mess
developing
up
for
the rules
murdering
of bot
bots.
killing,
There's a whole system
you're
developing.
eliminated from the squad.
There's gonna
Well,
be a bot humanitarian task force or something eventually
There's a
in the
whole
DAO. We're
system
gonna have to vote on
developing.
it. Like, how are we treating liquidators? Is this the right way?
now that you can talk in the verse, I mean, I can just come up to you, and if you can't talk to me regularly, if I ask you a question, I might execute you. Just come up to you,
Yeah.
and if you can't
Hefe, I know Coder Dan is off the stage. You guys actually have a mural board and
Yeah.
a whole, agenda, so I don't want to pull us too far into this. So,
Yeah.
I'm gonna step down. If anybody has to raise their hand, just ping me and I can bring you up.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate it. Yeah, so that's old business stuff right there. Please comment on it. Check out the thread. Give your opinions.
Yeah, so that's old business stuff.
I'm
right
not
there.
a huge. Well, I guess it does
Please,
affect me.
comment
So
on it,
I'll
check
probably
out the
look at
thread,
that again
give
and
your
provide my
opinions.
feedback. But
I'm
definitely
not a huge-
consider
well, I guess it does
some of the
affect
other
me, so
limitation options
I'll
because
probably look at that
there
again
does
and
seem to
provide
be
my feedback.
some anecdotal evidence from our friends saying that things are actually improving with that little trial run that we did. So definitely consider that, and we can revisit that if people want.
With that
So.
little trial run that we did. So definitely consider that.
And then Coder Dan, I see you
we can
put that up.
revisit
Work
that
in
if people want.
progress. We're also thinking of naming conventions around the whole console cartridge model. If you think there's some better naming convention that would be more user friendly or more appealing, or appeal to the concept of what we're trying to do with that better, definitely hop in and provide your insights with better naming conventions if you think there is, in terms of a pass or whatever you might be thinking of. So. New business. I see there's some new business stuff in here. I'll go through and address it. We also have a special guest. We have Just Sweet Fatigue. I guess we'll give you some time there on stage if you'd like, and you can run through kind of what you're doing. But the first three things here we'll look at with new business. I guess someone had posted a sig prop without any discussion thread, and so try and take another run at it. Create an idea in the forum, get some discussion around it, and if it gets some traction, get peeps talking about it, we'll bring it up here on stage and we'll run through your idea there. And that was the change to level 8 and level 9 altars. To be honest, I didn't read it, but if you can start a discussion thread on it, we can start having a conversation around that.
To be honest, I didn't read it, but
how to throw a curveball. I see. I want to get Dan's sentiment on this. If you are able to speak on it, feel free to speak on it. This is just a post Moon had put up as an idea, so just something to think about and provide feedback on. Nothing actionable on that in any way, but just an interesting post. Definitely go look at that. The post is called "Turning Off the Ghost Bonding Curve." Very probably controversial, but go read it. It's quite a deep, lengthy post. And then I think we should get some more discussion around it before we again bring that up and actually start debating it. But really interesting post. If Coder Dan, you have seen that post with turning off the bonding curve, if you want to provide your any insight on it, feel free to do that. Turning off the bonding curve. If you want to provide your any insight on it, feel free to do that. I don't know. I think if you're able to speak.
Yeah, I'm just trying to speak.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Don't have any. Yeah, it's gonna go in and out. Don't have any comments at the moment, but
I can hear
I'll
you.
be watching the discussion for sure, and I'll chime in the DAO discussion forum if there's anything specific to go over.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the right idea there. So definitely go participate, give your feedback on that. Exactly. There's a hackathon going on right now. We can touch on that near the end as well. We got Jesui Fatigue in the audience. Do you want to come up and spend maybe 5 minutes or so and explain kind of what you're doing? A little pitch. It's up to you, friend. I can definitely let you up. Oh, there you go. Perfect. Thanks. GM. It's up to you, friend. I can definitely let you up. Oh, there you go. Perfect. Thanks. GM. It's up to you, friend. I can definitely let you up. Oh, there you go. Perfect. Thanks. GM. You can fire away, sir. The stage is yours here.
Sorry.
You can fire away, sir. The stage is yours here.
Sorry.
You can fire away, sir. The stage is yours here. Well, I think the way Dan explained the SDK was it would allow for scripting, and I think that would be done in probably TypeScript on your parcel. So you'd be able to run scripts on objects, or I think you even mentioned creating objects on your parcel. That's going to be like level 1 of the SDK, but I think the later implementations are also going to include the NPC dApps and all the other features of the SDK will come with like subsequent updates. And all the other features of the SDK will come with like subsequent updates. Yeah, I think V1 is going to be very much you're going to need some scripting skills, abilities. And then subsequent variations. The move hopefully is to go to a more modular style where you don't need very much, if any, coding experience to put things to play with elements on your parcel, or integrate elements.
Okay, see.
To play with elements on your parcel, or integrate elements. That's a good question, Coder Dan. I'm not sure on that one there. Coder Dan has stated the SDK will have in-game scripting features and JS components you can link with on-chain and off-chain data. And then there won't be much of a GUI, like you said. Like I said, you'll have to have some scripting experience But if you have a if you have a scripting GUI, that would be cool.
Like I said, you'll have to have some scripting experience.
Yeah, it's
But if you have a scripting GUI, that would be cool. Like I said, you'll have to have some scripting experience.
Yeah. And then he does say, he did follow up on your question. Solidity would be used if you want to write a smart contract, but otherwise it'll be mostly JS and TypeScript. Solidity would be used if you want to write a smart contract, but otherwise it'll be mostly JS and TypeScript.
Solidity would be used if you want to write a smart contract, but otherwise it'll be mostly JS and TypeScript.
Yeah, absolutely. So go ahead. So maybe you can get into kind of what you're working on, and I know you, if you would like to, and then if you have any other questions regarding how the DAO could maybe help your project or whatever you need, really.
If you have any other questions regarding how the
well,
DAO
I did just want to have
help
like
your
one
project
last
or
question.
whatever you need, really.
Oh, absolutely.
Whether NPCs in the Gotchi verse might be able to facilitate having
Help your project or whatever you need, really.
Oh, absolutely.
NPCs in the Gotchi verse might be able to facilitate having that could
Oh,
open
interesting.
that could open up like the ecosystem mini games,
Oh, interesting.
which could open up like the ecosystem mini games,
Oh, interesting.
which could open up
I'm liking all your ideas. I definitely think it would lead to unique user experiences. You know, Coder Dance saying external links are tricky, but there'll be some level of support for external links.
You know, Coder Dance saying external links are tricky, but
yeah,
there'll be some level of support for external links. You know, Coder Dance saying external links are tricky, but there'll be some level of support for external links.
That's very cool. I know we talked about this for a little while in the DMs, and you're trying to make something a little bit different. It seems like compared to what's out there. I mean, you know, we do have quite a few. We have a few dashboards now that provide data analytics and that sort of thing. But it seems like you're trying to do something a bit different in terms of being more of like the I think the way you described it was like an agnostic hub for Aavegotchi.
I think that's the way you describe it.
Oh, maybe, yeah, okay, maybe it was me, yeah. But that's the way it kind of seems like what you're doing there with the, you know, it's not really
Oh, maybe
built towards any one specific purpose. You're just tying everything into your UI, right?
Yeah.
Built towards
And I
any
think
one specific purpose. You're just tying everything into your UI, right? Built towards any one specific purpose. You're just tying everything into your UI, right?
Oh, that's kind of cool. And if you guys are on the Miro board there, actually, can you drop a link to Gotchi? I guess it's just gotchi-.com, isn't it?
And if you guys are on the Miro board
Yeah.
there, actually, can you drop a link to Gotchi DAO? I guess
Yeah,
it's just
yeah. So check that out. I like the layout of it. It's quite nice. So,
it is slightly broken into
Yeah,
the
so
graph
check
as
that
well.
out.
what level of coding experience do you have? you like a coder by day or like a programmer by day, or you have this is a hobby?
Experience do you
no,
have? Are you like a
I'm
coder by
unemployed,
day
and I
or like a
started
programmer by
learning
day?
how
Or
to
you have this is a
code
hobby?
TypeScript about 5 or 6 months ago now. Trying to make a mini game initially, which I soon gave up on. And then just started pretty much working on Gotchi Dash every day. Released it maybe a month ago, and it's had some pretty positive responses. So thanks everyone.
Impressive.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Awesome.
Future.
We all belong to the club, my friend. So awesome. That's awesome that you're doing that, and really cool to see other coders, other programmers taking this up
So awesome.
on their own and building tools for a
really
community.
Cool to see other coders, other programmers taking this up
On their own and building tools for a community. On their own and building tools for a community. Yeah, yeah, I know a lot of great tools, but I appreciate your effort here, sir. If there's
Cheers for
anything,
having me up.
of course, if there's any way the DAO can help you, if you need something specific from us, always feel free to ask. So.
Yeah, you can get around to accepting my funding benefit.
Have you submitted a proposal to the DTF?
Huh?
Have you submitted a proposal to the DTF?
Yeah.
Have you
Okay.
submitted a proposal to the DTF?
All right. Well, that's a great start.
I think everything's been.
Have you
pretty
submitted
busy.
a
I've seen,
proposal to the
Wagner's
DTF?
house and
Have you
pretty
Okay.
submitted a proposal to the
hardcore,
All right.
Snapchat
Well, that's a
posts
great
recently,
start.
so I think everything's been
Yeah.
submitted a proposal to the DTF?
All right. All right. Well, I appreciate you up
Cheers.
here. Yeah. Cheers.
Yeah. Au
Yeah.
revoir.
All right. And so that was just sweet fatigue, community builder. I know Mikey J's in the audience. I know you wanted a couple minutes, sir. We were talking about proxy voting last week. And we have some new business that we could talk about if you guys are up to it. But I'd like to see if I can get Mikey J up here on stage. We can touch on proxy voting from last week.
If I can get Mikey J up here on stage,
I'll get you up here.
touch on proxy voting.
GM, how's it going?
Good, good. Thanks for having me up. I know this was discussed a lot last week, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to be there live. I did listen to the recording. I know this was discussed a lot last week, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to be there live. I did listen to the recording. kind of my thought, and I was. That was kind of my thought, and I was.
Yeah, I mean, my idea, it seemed to me like, based on all the conversations we've been having, a potential solution could be, to completely separate custodial ownership of the asset and the actual voting power the owner of the wallet with the assets has. The thing is, though, is if we were to do that, would it be a token? Because, like, do you want to allot value to that voting power? And that would make things interesting if you could. But even if they were used as an off-chain or an on-chain metric like friends, but not necessarily a token, you would be able to transfer your voting power, delegate it to your guild, dedicate it to a Gotchi gang member who, aligns with your values and you're okay with them voting on your behalf. Um, I think it just shows it gives people a little bit more flexibility with how they're allotting their voting power, and makes delegation more of an open thing where anybody can delegate to any other entity within the Gotchiverse. Seems like I was just going to touch on district DAOs and sub DAOs. It seems like this would be kind of a natural evolution to allow flexibility for those things to work when they get implemented.
Yeah, for
Evolution to allow flexibility for those things to work when they get implemented.
yeah, for
Evolution to allow flexibility for those things to work when they get implemented. hardcore.
I would love to
Oh,
see.
go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna mention what hardcore was saying. He's saying VP shouldn't be tokenized. You can delegate, but not permanently. I think what he means there is, the token is in question wouldn't be like an ERC20, but it would still have to represent those assets that owner has. So I wouldn't be able to take my, let's say I have 5,000 ghost worth of voting power. I wouldn't be able to just sell all of that away to someone else as a token and not have now representation of my assets. There would still be voting power tied to those assets.
Couldn't you theoretically
Have now representation of my assets. There would still be voting power tied to those assets.
couldn't you theoretically
Have now representation of my assets. There would still be voting power tied to those assets.
Yeah,
Like ballots, like voting ballots.
yeah. And Mike Kelly.
Like ballots, like voting ballots. Like ballots, like voting ballots.
something that we want from
Yeah.
Aavegotchi DAO?
Yeah, I mean, this is a great analogy, great time to bring up an analogy I recently heard on a podcast, Chainlink podcast, talking about DAOs. And this guy, he compared DAOs to almost like the Earth. So you have like the core of the Earth, you know, it's like the center. You might have very engaged group, like DAO members engaged in that little center. And then you have like the mantle, and you have members who are engaged in the discussion around the DAO, but maybe not necessarily directly involved with the DAO decision making. And then you have the crust, and the crust could be like 100,000 people, and they're just part of the DAO, but they maybe necessarily don't participate in governance. So I could see those folks on the outside part of it, like the crust people, you know, they could most likely delegate their power, or will most likely delegate their power if they can, to someone who they feel is going to be representing their concerns and issues, you know, in the DAO, those mantle members and the core members, you know. Yeah, and no shot at the crust people. I mean, those, I'm just referring to the people on the outer edges of participation in the DAO that are the, you know, voting power holders, but not necessarily utilizing their voting power really well right now. The, you know, voting power holders, but not necessarily utilizing their voting power really well right now. Yeah.
Hopefully to not have taxable events of moving actual tokens around, but just having an on-chain record that's non-transferable except for a particular helper method.
The way,
I think there's ways around it.
yeah, I mean, the way I was envisioning it, and I think this might be pretty easy to implement at the smart contract level, but, you know, probably want Dan's input on that. But you have 10,000 ghost worth of voting power. You now have, you know, 10,000 ghost worth of assets, sorry, which is 10,000 ghost or 10,000 voting power. You decide that you want to delegate 5,000 worth of voting power to your guild, and you happen to be in Wagme Warriors, so you delegate half of that to that. And then maybe there is some sort of other protocol that is actually incentivizing to have more voting power, kind of like in terms of a reward, kind of what Qidao does. And you would then go over there and you would deposit the other half. And now you would have half in one pool where you actually believe in how you're going to be represented, and you're even going to take the other half and maybe you're going to essentially monetize it. Do you see anything wrong with something like that? And you're even going to take the other half and maybe you're going to essentially monetize it. Do you see anything wrong with something like that? Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I also wonder how much voting power based on our assets is actually being utilized in terms of a percentage. I don't have the data point, but it'd be interesting to know.
Voting power based on our assets is actually being utilized in terms of a percentage. I don't have the data point, but it'd be interesting to know. Voting power based on our assets is actually being utilized in terms of a percentage. I don't have the data point, but it'd be interesting to know.
There's a lot.
There's a lot. There's a lot.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, I think we should keep having a conversation around this because it's we're gonna get to a point where it actually we do have something comprehensive that we can maybe have. If the community is in agreement with, we can have something actionable we can implement at some point. Because we're gonna see the evolution of the DAO, so we should have these conversations as the DAO is evolving. Because we're going to be moving towards eventually district DAOs, sub DAOs, and almost a fragmentation of the DAO that we have now. You know, multiple parts representing the DAO now, and so I think having conversations around increased flexibility is going to be always welcomed. Like as we're
Having conversations around
as we're growing as a DAO.
is going to be always welcomed. Like as we're having conversations around.
Mikey J, thank you for sharing your kind of input on that. I definitely kind of share your sentiment of
Mikey J,
creating more flexibility as far as delegation goes. And I'll keep participating in that forum too. And if we can come up with some concrete solution to have this voting power represented in a way where it would be transferable and still maintaining our security as a DAO, we should definitely keep drilling in on that.
Still maintaining our security as a DAO. We should definitely keep drilling.
Do you have any last thoughts, Mikey J, or anyone else here up on stage right now in regards to proxy voting?
Do you have any last thoughts,
last
Mikey
thing I would
J,
say,
or anyone else here up on stage right now in regards to proxy voting? Do you have any last thoughts,
last
Mikey
thing I
J,
would say,
or anyone else here up on stage right now in regards to proxy voting?
Yeah, well said, sir. Go ahead.
I still throw it out there for district.
Yeah, well said, sir. Go ahead.
I still throw it out there for district.
Yeah, I agree. That'd be great proving ground for sure. Coder Dan, in my opinion, Shidao's bribing system makes good sense for a pure DeFi protocol, but isn't necessarily right for a DAO focused on game mechanics.
Bribing system makes good sense for a pure DeFi protocol, but isn't
Coder Dan, when
necessarily
you
right for a DAO focused on game mechanics. Bribing system makes good sense for a pure DeFi protocol, but isn't necessarily right for a DAO focused on game mechanics.
Yeah, there could be some crazy adjustments, but also as a DAO, we also have like multiple layers of screening. Like, if some suggestions BS, we don't even bother talking about it up here. We briefly mention it sometimes, then go over it. Unless it's worth talking about. We don't even bother talking about it up here. We briefly mention it sometimes, then go over it. Unless it's worth talking about. We don't even bother talking about it up here. We briefly mention it sometimes, then go over it. Unless it's worth talking about. Yeah, and also Dan makes a good point. Once everything's on chain, we'll have to worry about 51% attacks. We still very much have this human element in our DAO where we can talk about things and debate if something's even worth moving forward on. In the past, there have been SIG props that have been people have put up without any discussion and tried to have unreasonable suggestions to what we could do in the game, and oftentimes we briefly discuss it and then move on. So we still have that ability. We can always exercise that ability if we as a DAO feel like something that was pushed through as a SIG prop without any discussion or reasonable debate was shouldn't be implemented. So we still have that filter. And then so until the smart contract fully on chain implementation, we can still exercise that in addition to our voting power. Fully on chain implementation. And also, I will say a good debate and making some great points is of swaying voting power in itself. In the DAO, if you're able to create an argument that's strong enough that's able to actually change someone's opinion on, their state of opinion on a specific topic, that in itself, in my opinion, is worth voting power, through just dialogue. It's kind of an intangible, completely intangible, but, something I consider as well. Through just dialogue. It's kind of an intangible, completely intangible. And so I also put up an article there, Chainlink blog article on DAOs and Web3 governance. It's a nice, well put together article on kind of what we're talking about and talking about governance in general. So yeah, that's something to have a look at there. If we don't have anything else to touch on right now for governance, we could talk about potentially eye traits. I don't know. Do we have time for that? I guess we're over our hour now. I would have liked to talk about it, but depends if you guys want to. If you guys want to touch on that. I guess we're over our hour now.
Let's touch on it.
Okay.
Let's go.
All right. Let's hardcore drop the mural board you've been working on for eye traits, because I know you got a whole separate one for this. All right. Let's hardcore drop the mural board you've been working on for eye traits, because I know you got a whole separate one for this. All right. Let's hardcore drop the. And I'll get the thread here for that as well. It's been a pretty good discussion. I've been kind of just reading along and offering a few insights. Thank you, sir. Discussion. I've been kind of just reading along and offering a few insights. And the eye traits, we have discussed in great length all the other traits. There was like a very deep discussion around that, and we do have some consensus around what the other 4 traits are. Eye traits are still very much unknown, and so we kind of should talk about this as a DAO and look at what was proposed initially, and also now what we could potentially implement. And there are a few different good solutions that people have put forward. Some have more utility, some have more aesthetic appearance. I think the sentiment from Dan in general was with eyes, they are a trait based on rarity, but also it is some sort of a flex. And so having rare eyes, the value of rare eyes is speculative, has been speculative based on the scarcity of the actual eye trait. And so that's the current I guess you want to call it like value people are attributing to that. But the one issue I had with the just purely visual flex aspect was um, the eyes aren't necessarily represented very well in the Gotchi verse, just with the nature of how the gameplay is. Zoomed out 25, 30%, you can no longer actually tell any visual difference apart from color with the eye shapes. And it would be cool for them to be a little, represented a little bit better. I know we also have some peeps who have put forward some great battle mechanics or utility mechanics for eye traits. So first, before we get into it, I guess, does anybody have anything to touch on specifically for what they think on eye traits? Anybody up here on stage? How you're generally thinking of it? For what they think on eye traits. Anybody up here on stage?
Well, it seems like there's been a lot of
Thinking of it.
well, it seems like there's been a lot of
Yeah, I can highlight some of the ideas that kind of jumped out. That was interesting to see with rarity farming, to see that the double myth eyes pushed that Gotchi just past where the other one wasn't able to quite reach because of that. And that was pretty interesting. Um, but in regards to like gameplay, there were there's two like main arguments, and then there's different suggestions underneath each one. The two arguments are adding utility that is kind of like a soft utility in the Gotchiverse and wouldn't necessarily be directly related to PvP. And then the other one was purely aesthetic but improve the actual aesthetics in the Gotchiverse for representation of those of the different eye types. There's two like main arguments, and then there's different suggestions.
I definitely think the eye should matter a little more than that. Just because
Adding
it was part of the
utility
original
that
poll, it's
is
part
kind
of
of
the
like a
whole
soft utility in the
Gotchi.
Gotchiverse.
If it doesn't do anything like with the PvP or whatever, I think it should at least increase
And then the
what
other
you
one
hold.
was
You know what I
purely
mean?
aesthetic,
So
but
I mean, it can
improve
like
the
boost
actual
things,
aesthetics in
change
the
things
Gotchiverse
up. You know what I
for
mean? Depending on where
representation
it's at, maybe.
of those. We also have to think of the meta, where the meta for the other four traits is going to be quite flexible in terms of your XP. I believe for each XP level that you've achieved, you're going to be able to get 3 points, in-game points, towards your modifying your traits. That might change, but I think that's the way I heard Coder Dan say it before. So all those traits are going to be fairly modular, and especially if we get respec potions, if we get the respec potions, we can see a lot more flexibility in the meta of the four traits. As gameplay evolves, people will be able to shift around their traits based on what the most ideal setup would be for that time. The eye traits, they won't change. So in my opinion, the eye traits should not necessarily be directly related to PvP. So in terms of like damage per second or increasing defense, I don't think those would be the most appropriate for the eye traits, only because it would extend maybe an unfair advantage to people who have high eye traits, and that advantage would be there to stay. Which, I mean, it could be interesting because you would see a huge revaluing of gotchis in the market based on probably certain specific eye traits. But I think in general, in terms of fairness and competition, avoiding PvP utility for eye traits would probably be favorable. Like, it would be ideal. But that's just my opinion. There's also no harm in implementing it during this testing phase because we are early. And if someone does have a good enough idea regarding PvP and we feel like it's worth testing, we're very much in an experimental phase for traits. And, I'd like to know what Coder Dan's input is on that. But, having a arena turned on for a week with some cool PvP traits for eyes might just give us a little bit more insight in how that would work. How fair or unfair it would actually be with the advantages, and would it really make a difference in PvP? That would give us a little bit more data on that. And so I don't have like a fully fleshed out opinion on it. I'm just speculating that maybe immutable traits might not be the best for PvP, because PvP traditionally has a changing meta. Some games it changes a lot slower. Other games, like with Axie Infinity, the meta would change every couple weeks. So it's like you always had to reskill, rebuild your teams, and you're constantly shuffling around trying to figure out what the best, where people aren't looking and where you can gain that advantage. That's part of it. So there was also a mention of quests and how quests could be implemented around different eye types in the grid. But that's a later game mechanic that could be implemented, which is another thing to add for eyes, is that you could really layer on the use cases for eyes. You could start with a more general use case that's maybe not directly related to gameplay and is purely aesthetic, and then always add additional utility as we see fit. That could also be another place to start off. Let me just read some of these comments. Which is another thing to add for eyes, is that you could hardcore. We can do eye color as sprint, trail color, eye shape as the pattern, and that was the suggestion I'd put out also, or someone had, and I agreed with them. I think I'm a huge fan of that. You're increasing the visibility of the Gotchi, and you're also increasing that that flex related to the eyes. You might see, for the more rare eye types, might have a more aesthetically appealing trail with pattern kind of thing, and it would be the trail with the pattern that would be desired in the Gotchiverse while you see people running around, because the eyes are not that noticeable, so they would just be represented a different way. You're increasing the visibility of the Gotchi, and you're also increasing that that flex related to the eyes. You might see, for the more rare eye types, might have a more aesthetically appealing
trail with pattern kind of thing, and it would be the trail with the pattern.
Oh, I guess that's a third thing to consider is do we want something kind of special and exclusive for double myth eyes, either in terms of a visual flex or in terms of, you know, specific gameplay? Is there a feeling towards double, because I mean the market's valued it that way, but is there a feeling amongst the community that the double myth eyes, and you know, I'll say I try to be neutral on it because I do own a double myth eyes, so you know, not trying to be biased, but you know, from in general, do people feel like the double myth eyes should have something kind of special? That's been mentioned many times, right? So is there a feeling towards double, because I mean the market's valued it that way, but is there a feeling amongst the community that the double myth eyes, and
Well, I
you know,
can
I'll
just
say
imagine, if there's a
I try to be neutral on it because I do own a double myth eyes, so you know, not trying to be biased, but you know, from in general, do people feel like the double myth eyes should have something kind of special? That's been mentioned many times. Oh, right? That would be cool. Is there a feeling towards double, because I mean the market's valued it that way, but is there a feeling amongst the community that the double myth eyes, and
well, I
you
can
know, I'll
just
say
imagine, if there's a
I try to be neutral on it because I do. Yeah, maybe it could be turned off with you know, it could be the same toggle that they use for the Spirit Force, the glow aura.
yeah,
Could be the
Gotchi
same.
glow.
Yeah, could be the same toggle for that.
Oh, that
It's
would
a
be
good
cool.
consideration. I like Moon's point as well. You know, that the double myth eyes could potentially have, you know, a very unique appearance because it's purely visual and it doesn't really affect gameplay. It's just a little bit of a flex for those eye types. Could be turned off with, and you know, I'd like to know Coder Dan's opinion on this. If you have something like this, purely aesthetic, visual, but very exclusive at the top, you know, you have this very small percentage of double myth eyes that, like you were saying, have this flame animation around them. Would that in turn make the subsequent ones underneath that follow a specific pattern of value? Would now, like the rare ones be, you know, would the rare ones be valued a little closer to those double myth eyes, and then the uncommon a little bit close? Like, you know, would those other eye types get it ordered in terms of value just because the double myth eye has this special ability, or would we have to add like scaled down aesthetic appeals to each tier of rarity? You know, that's something I've been thinking about. Would now, like the rare
Well,
ones
how many
be,
double myth?
you know, would the rare ones be valued a little? I think there's less than 300. There's like 280 or something like that. A little bit close, like, you know, would those other eye types get it ordered in terms of value just because the double myth eye has this special ability, or would we have to add like scaled down aesthetic appeals to each? Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Because we do have some double myth eye collectors. And I can't see on Fireball GG, unfortunately. I don't think they show the whole ownership array. They just show whatever's available on the bazaar. There might be another tool that I'm not thinking of here. I know there's another place where you can look at one of ones and more exclusive gotchis. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Because we do have some double myth eye collectors. And I can't see on Fireball GG, unfortunately. I don't think they show the whole ownership array. They just show whatever's available on the bazaar. There might be another tool that I'm not thinking of here. I know there's another place where you can look at one of ones and more exclusive gotchis. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Because we do have some double myth eye collectors. And I can't see on Fireball GG, unfortunately. I don't think they show the whole ownership array. They just show whatever's available on the bazaar. There might be another tool that I'm not thinking of here. I know there's another place where you can look at one of ones and more exclusive gotchis. I think with their discretion, it should be, I feel like it should be allowed with their discretion because they also have a vision and we don't want to like go too far off the path with the vision. But I see like there could be some lore with double myth eyes. It could be part of the storyline, specific gotchis. People might build their own quests, like we've seen with mini games, and have special abilities. So it doesn't really end, in my opinion, even if we decided to give a low use case value to the double myth eyes and eyes in general. People will still build and find ways to integrate those. But we need to find out. I think the biggest thing with me, in my opinion, is the eye types are not really represented very well, or the eye colors actually are not even represented very well in like the Gotchi gameplay currently. So how can we? It is a flex, but how can we make it actually look like a flex? Because right now it doesn't really look like that. Value to the double myth eyes and eyes in general. People will still build and find ways to integrate those. But we need to find out. I think the biggest thing with me, in my opinion, is the eye types are not really represented very well, or the eye colors actually are not even represented very well in like the Gotchi gameplay currently. So how can we? It is a flex, but how can we make it actually look like a flex? Because right now it doesn't really look like that. Value to the double myth eyes and eyes in general. That's interesting. Yeah, that would be interesting. And I guess allows for those to be valued a bit differently. An interesting kind of example is for something that had no utility whatsoever but became very valuable in a game was in old school RuneScape. They had party hats, and it was literally just like this one event that happened, or I guess it was an event that happened, and you could get this like firecracker, and you would open it, and one of the prizes you could get was a party hat. And like it's just it literally looks like, I don't know if anybody has a picture of it, but it literally looks like just a basic looking hat that someone drew, and there was different colors you could get, but there were specific ones that went for like millions of like the in-game currency. Like they became very valuable in the game, and they literally had no utility besides being a party hat. But it was like a flex. It was like such a flex to see someone walking down in the game, or walking around in like the wilderness of the game, and have like a party hat. You're like, oh shit, that guy's an OG. Like he has a freaking party hat. There was different colors you could get,
One
but
thing.
there were specific ones that went for like millions of like the in-game currency. Like they became very valuable in the game, and they literally had no utility besides being a party hat. But it was like a flex. It was like such a flex to see someone walking down in the game, or walking around in like the wilderness of the game, and have like a party hat. You're like, oh shit, that guy's an OG. Like he has a freaking party hat. There was different colors you could get,
One
but
thing.
there were specific ones that went for like millions of like the in-game currency. Like they became very valuable in the game, and they literally had no utility besides being a party hat. But it was like a flex. It was like such. Yeah, I mean the cap on a flex is pretty much unlimited in terms of how much people want to speculate on it. That's the thing. If you start implementing more utility based on gameplay, it's a little easier to quantify it, and that might actually tether its value closer to what people think. Whereas you have the other downside of the aesthetic appeal of just making it purely aesthetic is you will make the higher eye types more desirable based on the flex, but it'll be mostly, that flex will mostly be concentrated near the top, and actually all the other eye types won't necessarily benefit from anything. And in fact, maybe might be hurt by it if their eye shape and eye color doesn't really look aesthetically appealing at all. compared to what they have right now with that stream that currently exists.
The other downside,
And so that's something to consider there is if we just go purely visual aesthetic, you won't get any increased value and maybe decreased, revaluing of the lower I-type gotchis. And the higher I-types, the very high I-types, would be the ones benefiting the most from that, which is it's a small group amongst asset owners. It's like, two. I don't even know how many asset owners there is, but if there's only a few double mythis, less than 300, then you're really catering to a small group of collectors, and not really providing any real benefit to the lower tiers. So that's that one side of it, and then the other side is the utility side of it, where you can add utility, and maybe everybody will benefit. All the I-types will benefit in some way, but the higher I-types value might be more tethered to their how they're quantified in terms of what benefit they're giving, rather than a speculative value. I think that's kind of how I'm looking at it. Those are the two ways I'm looking at it. Not like particularly leaning towards one way or the other, but seeing what you guys are saying here in the chat.
And not really providing any real benefit.
The loot box prize could be transient item, like a party hat that only exists for 2 weeks, for example. So after the drop, the value would go away, unless we kept doing drops, in which case special items would face dilution. True, yeah.
But the higher I-types value might be more.
I was just thinking for the party hat.
Yeah.
How they're quantified in terms of what benefit they're giving, rather than a speculative value. I think that's kind of how I'm looking at it. Those are the two ways I'm looking at it. Not like particularly leaning towards one way or the other, but
seeing what you guys are saying here in the chat.
And not really providing any real benefit.
The loot box prize could be transient item, like a party hat that only exists for 2 weeks, for example. So after the drop, the value would go away, unless we kept like a lock and key kind of mechanic, and maybe people can collab together, and that creates a rental demand for certain I-types as well, for sure. That
also in your
I think that's kind of how I'm looking at it. Those are the two ways I'm looking at it. Not like particularly leaning towards one way or the other, but seeing what you guys are saying here in the chat. The loot box prize. Yeah. And I mean, I'm just echoing on Matt's sentiment there. He's asking why are we just talking about double mythos? I think it's a good point. We shouldn't just focus on double mythos for the around the eye discussion. I think it is definitely a point that needs to be taken care of, right? Because they're at the top of the whole chain of rarity for eye shape and color. But we should also consider all the other eye types, because those are vastly more. There's vastly more of those. And we should definitely make sure that those asset holders are being recognized.
Well, that kind of goes into what you were saying.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just echoing on Matt's sentiment there. He's asking why are we just talking about double mythos? I think it's a good point. We shouldn't just focus on double mythos for the around the eye discussion. I think it is definitely a point that needs to be taken care of, right? Because they're at the top of the whole.
Coder Dan kind of has a cool idea. So he says one probably bad idea for eye utility, in addition to whatever flex we give, is that the eyes could function like a rarity drop enhancer, similar to equipping lucky rings in Diablo. So you beat the boss in the dungeon, and you have a higher chance of whatever the drop is. This is really cool, because even for that specific Gotchi involved, you might want to get your homies involved, and so you all can get that drop. That is something that has happened in other games, where it's like, hey, you know what? Make sure you have a double mythos in your group when you go do this quest, because that monster has been dropping like crazy stuff for those double mythos. You definitely want to be around for that. There could be a collaboration incentive there.
Bad idea for eye utility, in addition to whatever flex we give, is that the eyes could function like a rarity drop enhancer, similar to equipping lucky rings in Diablo. Diablo. So you beat the boss.
Yeah,
in the
fair
dungeon,
enough. That's an
and you have a higher
alternative as
chance of
well.
whatever the drop is. This is really cool because even for that specific gotchi involved, you might want to get your homies involved, and so you all can get that drop. You know, that is something that
Everyone would
has
have to
happened in
kind
other
of like
games where
guard
it's like,
that
hey, you know
double
what, make sure
mythi,
you
because
have a double
if
mythi
that
so
double
you can
mythi
go
gets
do this
killed during the
quest,
battle,
because
or you know
bosses
whatever
will be
rare
dropping, like,
I
crazy
gotchi
stuff
that you
for
have
those
with
double
you gets
mythis,
killed
so
during the
definitely
battle,
wanna
you
do
might
that.
end up
You
just
definitely
with the
wanna be
lower
around for
reward.
that. Like
And it was a
good
good point someone
collaboration
else
is
made that a
everything.
lot of the double mythis are a lower trait, like lower rarity anyway. So it'd be kind of this cool mechanic where you have a tank or a bunch of tanks protecting the valuable I
Yeah,
gotchi,
fair enough. That's an
so you
alternative
guys
as
can get a
well.
better reward near the end when the boss dies.
Even for that specific gotchi involved, you might want to.
I mean, I think we've had a good conversation around eye traits here. Please continue participating in the eye shape and eye trait discussion. I think we're getting close to somewhere where we can maybe have some actionables, maybe a proposal. I see, Callum, you're chomping at the bit for this hackathon. Are you able to come up on stage, sir, and give a little rundown on what the specifics of this hackathon are?
Or a bunch of tanks.
If you don't
I'll sit
mind.
down and look 'em up.
The valuable
Thanks.
gotchi, so you guys can get a better reward.
Oh, hardcore.
I mean, I think we've had a good conversation around eye traits here. Please continue participating in the eye shape and eye trait.
What up? What up?
I think we're getting close
Okay,
to
they should both be
somewhere
up.
where
Excellent.
we can
Thank you.
maybe have
Perfect.
some
Hardcore up
actionables,
here. Hardcore's
maybe
kind
a
of pro on this, and he's
proposal.
just got me wrapped up in the ringer to see the
See,
value.
Callum, you're chomping at the bit for this hackathon. Are you able to come up on stage, sir, and give a little rundown on what the specifics of this hackathon are? If you
I'll
don't
sit
mind.
down and look 'em up.
The valuable
Thanks.
gotchi, so you guys can get a better reward.
Oh, hardcore.
I mean, I think we've had a good conversation around eye traits here. Please continue participating in eye shape and eye trait.
What up? What up?
discussion. I think we're getting close
Okay,
to
they should both be
somewhere
up.
where
Excellent.
we can
Thank you.
maybe have
Perfect.
some
Hardcore up here.
actionables,
Hardcore's
maybe
kind
a
of pro on this, and he's
proposal.
just got me wrapped up in the ringer to see the
See,
value.
Callum, you're chomping at the bit for this hackathon. Are you able to come up on stage, sir, and give a little rundown on what the specifics of this hackathon are? If you
I'll
don't
sit
mind.
down and look 'em up.
Thanks.
Oh, hardcore.
I mean, I think we've had a good conversation around eye traits here. Please continue participating in eye shape and eye trait.
What up? What up?
I think we're getting close
Okay,
to
they should both be
somewhere
up.
where
Excellent. And so
DAO out there as ideas for people to have in the back of their mind when they look at
I mean, so for current projects that are already in our ecosystem, would they be able to apply for this? You know, say you're able to use Morales tooling, you're able to integrate Filecoin. Are those necessary to participate? For or is this something that you'd have to build from scratch?
or when they do the announcement.
Okay.
Yeah, so right now we don't have parameters.
And so
DAO out there as ideas for people to have in the back of their mind when they look at
I mean, so for current projects that are already in our ecosystem, would they be able to apply for this? You know, say you're able to use Morales tooling, you're able to integrate Filecoin. Are those necessary to participate? For or is this something that you'd have to build from scratch?
or when they do the announcement.
Yeah, I mean,
they're probably releasing something because that's why you do this.
yeah, I mean,
So they're
I've
gonna have something cool, and then you also get to be like, hey,
yeah.
And Andy's asking there if we
And so I mean, so for current projects that are already in our ecosystem, would they be able to apply for this? Well, I mean, the ATF has already served as a space for these discussions. It could be, I think, appropriate to have that in the just ATF general chat. Also, there are developers there that are lurking around that are happy to help with anything people need.
in the very less frequently visited Arcade Task Force Discord servers that we talked about, Hefe.
Yeah, let me link it. Let's get some peeps in there.
all right.
Yeah, there's an
I thought
ATF.
you were saying the DTF. I'm like, no, this is the opposite of that. We're going after other people's treasuries. This is like some pirate shit.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the ATF
is already served as a space for these
Yeah,
discussions. No, I hear you.
Let's go raid.
I think appropriate. Yeah, I hear your sentiment on that. ATF general chat. Also, there are developers there that are lurking around. That are
Cool. So we'll keep everyone updated with that as we get closer.
There's like 6 or 7 of like little groups of us going in there trying to just do one little problem. Well, and none of us are duplicating.
Yeah, let me link it.
What it's gonna end up being is like it's gonna end up looking like a tutorial if you put them in the right order. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But it will just get used as, oh, this is their stuff. This is like some pirate shit.
So just be aware it's still in development. It's ongoing. We don't have the parameter specs yet, but this is something to keep on your radar. And we've got so many good dev resources that are budding.
Yeah, I hear your sentiment on that. Also, there are developers there that are lurking around.
Cool. So we'll keep everyone updated with that as we get closer.
There's like 6 or 7 of like.
I'd love to throw in an internal event as well. For the future, it's something we can have a conversation, but having some sort of a internal hackathon, kind of what we did for the game jam, but open it up to more ideas in addition to mini games, and have some talent come out of the woodwork, and have some networking and partnerships happening amongst Aavegotchi devs and groups already creating cool stuff.
Well, I'd expect to see you here on this one too, Hefe. And if anything, let's go.
I'd love to throw in. Yeah, I echo that. I think it's a great idea. For the future, it's something we can. Okay. So I mean, hardcore. Any last words there before we? I think we're gonna wrap up here soon. I bought the more ideas in addition to mini games, and have some talent come out of the woodwork, and have some networking and partnerships happening amongst Aavegotchi devs and groups already creating cool stuff.
Well, I'd expect to see you here on this one too, Hefe. And if anything, let's go.
I'd love to throw in. Yeah, I echo that. I think it's a great idea. For the future, it's something we can. Okay. So yeah, you got me a believer in the mirror board there.
Yeah,
I think we're gonna wrap up here soon.
Okay, this is one of the projects. This is one of the projects.
To more ideas, in addition to mini games, and have some talent come out of the woodwork, and have some networking and partnerships happening amongst Aavegotchi devs and groups already creating cool stuff.
Well, I'd expect to see you here on this one too, Hefe. And if anything, let's go.
It's trans.
Yeah, I echo that. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, very cool.
There's the third good project. So
Yeah.
You got me a
let's
birthday
keep
on
the
the
nurse
mirror
one
board
up.
there.
When you have something like that.
Wrap up here soon.
Okay, this is one of the projects. This is one of the projects.
More ideas, in addition to mini games, and have some talent come out of the woodwork, and have some
Yeah, I mean,
The
there's
longer you maintain personhood and are, stand by. Well, this is a person here.
yeah,
The longer you stand by that, the better it goes for you.
yeah, excellent. I mean, that's great.
Because the time lock there on the good behavior is irreplaceable,
Good project.
Yeah, I mean, let's get these ideas on the mirror board and
really get good for like a year or so.
yeah. Let's get
like terribly slow curve.
yeah, let's get these ideas on the mirror board, and then we can dig into it a little bit more and get something actually actionable happening for this hackathon. Thank you for sharing that. Happy birthday to FaZe. It's his birthday today. You go enjoy that, sir. Go touch some grass.
Let's plan for a better execution of birthday song next week.
Excellent. That's great.
Let's do that. Or FaZe, why don't you make yourself a birthday song, and then we'll play it. We'll play it for you, and then sing you happy birthday.
Yeah, I mean, let's get these ideas on the mirror board. And
FaZe is also going to be one of the artists at our GMI Artist Summit. That's going to be happening next week.
let's
If there are any of you in the audience who are creative types, whether it's audio, visual, poetic, whatever, anything creative, definitely go reach out to either myself, Mike Callum, one of the other GMI members, and we can see how we can get you involved in the Artist Summit. So yeah, that's just my little bit there. That's going to be the 27th, right after the hangout. That's what we're aiming for, hopefully.
Why don't you make yourself a birthday song?
And so yeah, that's all I got for this meeting today, folks. Thank you for hanging out with us. It's a great discussion around all our DAO topics. Do you fellas have? Yeah, go ahead.
If there are any of you in the audience who are creative types,
7 p.m. Eastern, Gotchi Space on Twitter. Let's continue the conversation there. Do you all have anything else for this week coming up that you want to put out there before we sign off? So yeah, that's just my little bit there. That's going to be the 27th, right after the hangout. That's excellent.
We're having a party, right? Is it going to be an event like last snapshot?
So yeah,
I believe it'll be a gathering. We'll confirm that with Dan.
Hey, actually, before we wrap.
It's a great discussion around all our DAO topics.
Do you fellas have? Yeah, go ahead.
If there are any of you in the audience who are creative types,
7 p.m. Eastern, Gotchi Space on Twitter. Let's continue the conversation there. Do you all have anything else for this week coming up that you want to put out there before we sign off?
So yeah, that's just my little bit there. That's going to be the 27th, right after the hangout. That's
excellent.
We're having a party, right? Is it going to be an event like last snapshot?
So yeah,
I believe it'll be a gathering. We'll confirm. Great,
that.
thanks. Yeah, thanks for those reminders. And we do have a confirmation. There is an XP event on Thursday, so at least show up for that and make sure you get your XP, and hang out with us. All right, folks.
Tuesday's an XP event too, but it's just mental XP.
Right. Okay. Right on stuff. Right on, folks. It's great stuff. I got nothing else. Go enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Gotchi Space later tonight. Go touch some grass this week. And that's it. GN friends. Or GM for some.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for those reminders. And
Peace.
we do have a confirmation there is an XP event on Thursday, so at least show up for that and make sure you get your XP and hang out with us. All right, folks.
Tuesday's
Oh,
an XP event too, but it's just mental XP.
Right. Okay. Right on, stuff. Right on, folks. It's great stuff. I got nothing else. Go enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Gotchi space later tonight. Go touch some grass this week. And that's it. GN friends, or GM for some.
Great.
Thanks for those reminders. And
Peace.
we do have a confirmation.